Paddy Power stream all UK and Irish racing live on your mobile, tablet or PC. Unlike some other high street bookies, Paddy Power, you beauty!
Hello and welcome to the Monday Postcast. I'm Maddie Playle and I'm joined this week. We've got Nick Watts back on the couch, resuming the normal position. Over in Ireland, we've got Justin O'Hanlon and Paddy Power. What a week it's been. We've had classic weekend at the Curragh that we're going to look forward to. The Derby picture has changed and at the same time still not really got anywhere. We've had the main trials now, the Dante's out the way, and we've also had great racing at York and Newbury to get ourselves stuck into. Right, I think we should just crack on straight with it and look at Sandown on Thursday night. They host the Henry II Stakes. We've got Quest for More, Big Orange, the likes of Harrison and Alicia in there. What do you reckon, Nick? Kick us off. Stayers.
It's going to be a great night, isn't it? I think we could forecast some big temperatures this week, so Sandown on Thursday night sounds very appealing. It's annoying I won't be able to get there, but yeah, no, there's some good racing. Like you said, Henry II Stakes. Yeah, you look on the ratings, you know, it's a kind of race Big Orange should go very close in. I think him and Quest for More are quite a long way clear on the ratings. There is an interesting one. It's got a bit of improvement to find, but Harrison, Mick Shannon's horse, he's really hardly tried last year and ran in the Dante, ran in Voltigeur, ran in the Ledger, I think, and wasn't quite up to it, but maybe he's taken a leap forward. He won at Chelmsford on his comeback, beat Saint Michel, a good horse of Sir Mark Prescott's. Did it quite nicely, and maybe, you know, he's got a future as a stayer. So if there was to be an upset, then it could be Harrison. But I think this is a good opportunity for Big Orange. If he goes there, it's the kind of race he should be very competitive in.
Yeah, I agree. Harrison could well be one to watch. I think they sort of trained him last year as if they thought it'd be a good horse, but like you say, couldn't really cut it right at that top level. But maybe with another year under his belt, and this step up in trip, I think is the main thing that he'll improve for. Justin O'Hanlon, what do we make of the Henry II Stakes?
Well, without having gone into it in too much depth, Big Orange does stand out as the best horse in the race and probably the one to beat. But there probably isn't that much really between him and Quest for More, is there? I mean, Quest for More is going to give him £7, which might just favour it or might turn it in the favour of Big Orange. But I mean, Quest for More last season, he was probably one of the more improved stayers in training, winning the race in York. Going close in the Doncaster Cup and the Ascot race, and he probably ran like he needed in Maidan. You know, I suppose there is the potential for him to improve a bit more this year. I know he's a 7-year-old, but you know, he does seem to be he was a progressive 6-year-old last year, and I think Big Orange is fairly short. You know, it wouldn't be the greatest surprise in the world if Quest for More beat him, but. That's as far as my thinking goes on the race, really, Maddie.
Yeah, it'd be nice to watch, won't it? Have we got any betting, or have you got any strong thoughts on it, Paddy Power?
Yeah, we do indeed. So betting wise, Big Orange is favoured at 2-1. Elidor is second favourite 5-1. Then you got 7-1 Quest for More and 8-1 each of Higher Power and Harrison, as you mentioned. Yeah, my view is very similar to the guys. I think that Big Orange and Quest for More are pretty much the same horse. I just think the penalty the Quest for More is carrying, given the £7, is going to be the difference. And the only one we've laid, to be honest, in the race is Big Orange, and he's as short as 6-4 around in places, and just the 2-1 maybe people are seeing as a decent price, but the two of them do stand out, I think, head and shoulders above. But yeah, I think Big Orange is going to be difficult to beat.
Right, nice and simple, done and dusted. We'll move on to the Brigadier Gerard Stakes. Go straight back to you, Paddy. Have you got any betting on that?
We sure do. Let me have a look now. So we're also looking at a very popular favourite in Somi Dar, and obviously the ground at York put paid to her chances. So she, obviously the ground I think is soft and silent at the moment, but like Nick said, the weather is meant to be deadly this week, so should be grand by then. But she's 11-8 favourite. Desert Encounter 7-1. Enad. And then with all the N's and the A's and the D's is 8-1. Chain of Daisies 10-1, and I left out Air Pilot. We have Air Pilot pretty short at 7-1 actually, and 10-1 Steel in Madrid. So Somidar a very strong favourite, and I was just talking to the lads there before it came on air, and just said like it's the only one we've really laid in the race as well. So it's she's probably going to be tough to beat, I'd say.
Justin, do you reckon anything can beat Somidar?
Probably not. The ground is soft there at the minute, is it? I presume it's supposed to dry out a fair bit over the next few days. I mean, Somidar goes on soft ground, doesn't she? I don't think the ground issue would be that much of a player. But if it did, I mean, if something untoward did happen, you get a fair shower of rain, whatever, give Air Pilot a chance of maybe causing a surprise there. I suppose I'm going on the fact that he's won a couple of times in Ireland, and I've seen him a couple of times, especially when he beat a fairly good yardstick of Ken Condon's success days at Naas there last month. But it's so many Dars to lose, and I suppose it would be a bit of a surprise if she was turned over here.
Air Pilot's very consistent, isn't he? He's one of those horses you can sort of set your clock by. Maybe he won't have that much improvement. I'm not too sure. What do you make of it, Nick?
Well, I think it's all been said, really. I think it's a good opportunity for Somi Dar to get off to a winning start this season. I think if it does stay dry this week, I think 11-8 against isn't actually a bad price. I could see it going shorter than that. And if she takes after her down, then she'll improve with age. And so, there should be big things of her, to come this season. And it's a really good starting point for her. So, easy decision, I suppose, to miss York, bearing in mind how the weather was when you've got this race coming a week later. So I'm sure he's made the right choice.
Yeah, I mean, I would have been looking to take on Somi Dar, but I don't think it's that great race. We mentioned in last week's postcast about Chain of Daisies, and she didn't run either at York, so I think she could be quite interesting. But like you say, it looks Somi Dar's to lose. Has anyone else spotted anything else on the card or anything midweek that they want to mention? I really like a horse called Shagatai in the National Stakes, which looks like it could be quite a strong race. So I'll just kick you off with that one. Nick, where do you stand on the rest of the week's racing? Have you seen anything you like?
There's one at Goodwood. It used to be the Predominant and Loopy Stakes, probably way before your time, Maddie. It's changed now. I think it's the Cocked Hat now. It used to be like a Derby and Oaks trial. It doesn't tend to be these days, but there's a Frankel horse there, Monarch's Glen, who looked very good at Kempton on his comeback, not so good at Sandown last time, but I'd be prepared to forgive him that, and I think he's got a good chance in the Cocked Hat, although, it's worth saying now, I don't think that either of these races have any bearing on the Epsom Classics at all.
Yeah, he had excuses when he ran in the Esher Cup, didn't he? What about you, Justin? Have you managed to have a look at anything else throughout the week that takes your eye?
There's a filly running at Goran tomorrow night, Tuesday night, of John Ox's called Araka, who was pretty highly touted before she made her debut in a Curragh Maiden there last weekend. Finished third, was green. She didn't get the run of the race, and she ran on to finish third. She's running in actually quite a useful looking 9.5 furlong fillies maiden at Goran, the first race on the card tomorrow evening. But I think she's got a hell of a good chance. Araka.
Interesting. Talking of the fillies, we've got tomorrow, I think, is the Pre-Cleopatra, which sees Trev's sister, take on Terrakova, which is one of Goldikova's foals. So I think that could be quite interesting as well. Before we go for a quick break, Paddy, has anything took your eye?
No, the National Stakes I'm looking forward to as well. Like you, nothing in particular. There's two. I think it's a Hannon has two, and it's in my head this is like a Hannon benefit race. Is it? I mean, and just looks. It's always a decent pointer for like I don't know, the Coventry or the Norfolk or something like that at Ascot. So I'll be just watching with interest.
Yeah. Okay.
Introducing Paddy Power's Hot Trot Jackpot, their new free-to-enter horse racing competition. Every Saturday, pick 5 horses in a free Lucky 31 bet for your chance to win the guaranteed £10,000 jackpot. T&Cs apply. 18+ BeGambleAware.org.
Okay, we're going to get straight into the bones of it now. Irish 2,000 guineas on Saturday. It looks set to be a pretty good renewal. We've got Churchill obviously trying to win the other version after winning the English version. He's not going to go to the Derby. Start off with you, Paddy Power. Have we got any prices?
We do indeed, yeah. Churchill is the 1-3 favourite, and then Irish Correspondent is 5-1, Thunder Snow 7-1, Order of the Guard are 8-1, 10-1 More Decree, and 16-1 and bigger the rest. So I guess Churchill looks the odds would suggest Churchill is unbeatable, but I think Mick Halford is going to have a pretty strong hand in both the guineas, both the Irish guineas. So I think Irish Correspondent is a squeak of turning Churchill over, but Churchill does look pretty good, to be fair.
I'd be inclined to agree. What do you reckon, Nick?
Yeah, nothing much to add to what Paddy said. I think Churchill, I think it's probably the right race for him rather than the Derby. An obvious opportunity for him to follow up, isn't it? And, he only just does enough. He never looks that impressive, but that's why he's got a string of ones next to his name. So I think these really good ones, the best ones, they tend to run a bit like that, and it keeps them at the top for longer. And I'm sure he's going to, he's going to be winning for a little while yet.
We know what I'm like. I always want to take something on, but I am struggling because it's quite a small and select field. Justin, can you shed any light on that picture for us?
Well, it's a complete non-event. I mean, Churchill will
No,
win. Well, Irish Correspondent he's won 2 races well, but I mean, to throw him in against a horse of the level of Churchill, I mean, it is a giant step up from. I don't think he has an earthly chance of beating him, but it's a battle for second. He might be the best of a fairly moderate lot to try and chase home Churchill, but Churchill will probably win by about a length and a half without doing very much. But he's as big a certainty as you can imagine.
Lots of confidence then. I think he's one of those horses that he invites criticism because he's never going to win by very far. But as Nick says, that's why he's probably so good. We've covered that pretty sharpish. Let's move on to the 1,000 guineas on Sunday. Paddy, how do we bet?
Yeah, so betting wise, again, you got another classic winner. His favourite Winter is 10-11, much more backable than Churchill. Rahana is 9-2. Hydrangea is in there at 8-1. We got 10 to each of Banfasa, Isira, and Roly Poly. Roly Poly is 12-1, 12-1 and bigger the rest. So yeah, Winter, a few quid around for Rahana actually this morning. It's just gone a bit blue there. An odds checker is into 9-2 from I think 5-1. So maybe a bit of a people nibbling at that, I guess is the right way to describe it. But people not as impressed by Winter as they were by Churchill, I think, in the English equivalent. So I genuinely think Rahana looks like she could be pretty exciting. So I think I'd put her up to maybe to turn the tables with Winter.
Really, that's quite interesting. I thought Winter was really, really good at Newmarket. Justin, what do you make of the race?
What do you have any price for Aneen, Paddy?
For Aneen, yeah.
That's
Aneen
what I was going to say.
Do you know what Aneen is? Not in our market, but I'm just looking across the board, be about 12 to 1 shot.
Yeah. It should be.
That's the Hamdan horse, yeah.
Yeah, should be interesting if she runs. She's a half sister to Autad, of course, last year's Irish 2,000 guineas winner, and she was most impressive when she won a Big Field Curragh maiden last back end, having been very unlucky in a good Leopardstown maiden before that. Again, it's a huge step up, but she's interesting. I agree with you. I actually agree with Paddy. I think Rahana has a life here against Winter. She's only beaten less than a length by her in the Guineas trial at Leopardstown. And I think the step up to a mile and on genuinely, if the ground stays, if it doesn't rain the weekend, the ground stays good or quicker, I think Rahana has a life at turning the tables on Winter. Winter obviously the one to beat, but Rahana definitely has a life, and Aneen has a life as well if she's trained on, and I assume she has if Kevin is running her first time out in the Classic.
Well, we're united and divided. I like Aneen, but I do think maybe being a bit harsh on Winter. I thought she really impressed me at Newmarket. What do you make of it, Nick?
Yeah, she did win impressively at Newmarket, but I think if you're looking at the two races, this one offers much more chance of getting the favourite beaten than the 2,000. So in those terms, it's much more interesting.
It's a bit deeper, isn't it?
A bit deeper, and I think you could give a chance to some of the others. One of the ones we haven't mentioned, who I'd be keen on, I just wouldn't know how straight she is at the moment, but Isira. Dermot Weld's filly had good form last season. She beat Hydrangea once. She came up against Sia Grace a couple of times as well, and Sia Grace ran really well in the French Guineas a couple of weeks ago, so that's not bad form at all. Would have loved to have seen her have a run just to see how she is. We're not going to get that, but if Dermot Weld lets her go, then that's a vote of confidence in itself. So each way price, I'd give her a chance.
Okay, very interesting. Before we go to the break, it is competition time. For your chance to win a free £25 or €25 free bet from our sponsors, Paddy Power, just tweet us your answer to this question using the hashtag Postcast. Who is the favourite with Paddy Power for Saturday's Irish 2,000 Guineas? We've already mentioned him for you, and we'll announce the winner on Friday's show.
Introducing Paddy Power's Hot Trot Jackpot, their new free-to-enter horse racing competition. Every Saturday, pick 5 horses in a free Lucky 31 bet for your chance to win the guaranteed £10,000 jackpot. T&Cs apply. 18+. BeGambleAware.org.
Welcome back to the Monday Postcast. I'm joined by Nick Watts, Paddy Power and Justin O'Hanlon. We've covered a bit of looking forward. We're going to look back now at York. The trials are all over for the Derby now. I'm not sure if a lot of people it's much clearer for us. What was your reaction to the Dante, Nick?
I was impressed with the third horse, Crystal Ocean. Sir Michael Stout's strong finishing third, lacked a bit of experience. I'm sure if the Derby was a month further down the line, he'd be going for it definitely. He'd be quite a strong fancy for me. Stout was downbeat afterwards, said he wasn't even going to go, but he would have to speak to the owner, so he didn't completely rule it out. And I hope he doesn't. It'd be interesting to see how the horse comes out of the race. If he comes out of it fresh and well, it's the kind of Derby you think, well, why not have a go? Because it's very open. And in that case, if he did go for it, I could see him being quite well supported. But it's such a short turnaround between the Dante and the Derby. Whether he goes through it or not, I'm not sure. But I'm pretty certain he was the one to take from the race. As for the overall picture, it's like you said, it's very confused. Aidan's on about running 7.
Yeah. Do you think that's a case of,
throw enough darts and hope one sticks, I think.
Yeah, or if you don't
absolutely.
think you've got one Derby horse, then you probably haven't, sort of thing.
And often with Aidan, it's one of the ones, the less heralded ones, when he runs those big chunk of horses that comes to the fore. So maybe a Yucatan or a horse like that, or a Douglas MacArthur even might be a bit of value. But it's very, very confused.
Right, Justin, we'll go to you first. What was your reaction to the Dante? And then we'll go to Paddy and look at how the market reacted.
Well, I mean, the Derby to me is looking like a fairly average winners of 2 at this stage. There's absolutely nothing that stands out I'm afraid the Dante didn't do anything really to clear up those waters. Heard what Nick said about Crystal Ocean, promising horse, but it's I think you could probably put him in the same sort of bracket as the 4th one, Rekindling. I mean, the old adage: if you have a good stayer in the Derby, you have a horse who's not good enough to win a Derby. And that's been the case throughout the years. I'm not quite sure if that's going to be the case this year, because I cannot find one horse in this race that I would consider good enough to win a Derby in an average year. I think it's a terrible pity for the race, for the sake of the race, that Churchill doesn't run in the race, because I think he would have won it by 100 yards. But I Cliffs of all the Derby trials, Cliffs of Moher probably ran the best one. He got going quite late in the D Stakes, was going away at the line. You say he'll get a mile and a half well, and he probably maybe has a little bit more of a touch of class than many of these in the race. He's certainly the best of the Ballydoyle septet at the moment. The rest of them, there's a few probably Leger horses in there among them, but there isn't a Derby horse among them for my money. I mean, he had the first, second and third in 2 Derby trials in the space of 3 days, and none of them looked good enough to win a Derby. Cliffs of Moher was the one that stood out of his. Of the English runners, Cracksman, you're going on the basis of winning a mile and a quarter race around Epsom, and of course what he did in that maiden last year. He's in a good year, he would still have a lot to prove, but this is not a good year. I'm not doing anything here to clarify these waters at all, am I?
You're making it worse. No, I agree with you on Cliffs of Moher.
But then why is he running 7? If Cliffs of Moher is the one, why is he running another 6?
Why not? He's got nowhere else to run them, and they are supposedly Derby horses. If they're, even if they're not good enough to win, then they'll be good enough to get some place money, I'm sure. I think what spoke out for me is I quite like Cracksman, but then I'm hearing all this negativity. Lee mentioned on last week's Postcast. I know the owner was actually quite negative about Golden Horn, saying he wasn't sure if he'd stay the trip, but he knew he was good enough. Whereas with Cracksman, it's the obvious of he thinks he'll stay, but he's not sure if he's good enough, and that is a bit of a concern to me. But no, Cliffs of Moher, I think Aidan made it very clear that he didn't think he was ready at all coming into Chester, and I just thought it was a lovely performance. I thought I'm against you with Crystal Ocean and that Dante. Permian's a lovely horse, but I really was quite underwhelmed by it. I wasn't very impressed
It was his 10th run as well, Permian.
It's not a profile.
He's hardly an unexposed horse.
Paddy, how do we bet on the Derby?
I suppose the only thing that became clear about the Derby is the fact that we now know that Church is not running, isn't it? But we bet Cliffs of Moher is favourite.
We know nothing at all. That's what we know.
I know. Cliffs of Moher is favourite 4-1, Cracksman 9-2, Best Solution 8-1, Eminent 10-1, 12-1 each of Permian, Mirage Dancer, Yucatan, it's 14-1 Dubai Thunder. So yeah, it's really open. Like at this stage, you'd normally have a shorter price favourite than 4-1. And I think to kind of reiterate the point that was made there, I think by Nick about, I think it was the Cliffs of Moher trial. It wasn't unlike US Army Ranger last year. Do you know what I mean? Like, because who obviously came on a huge amount from his trial, and maybe Cliffs of Moher will do the same and come on a huge amount. The US Army Ranger obviously didn't win the Derby, but he was good enough to be second, so which wasn't that bad. So I think
should have won it.
He should, arguably, but Cliffs of Moher I think is the one that, presuming there's enough there in the tank to take a step forward. I don't know. Maybe you can think back and say, well, it was never likely Churchill was going to run, but
I do think that I hate to say it, but after the Guineas, everyone sort of got caught up in this storm, and I listened to what they said, and I thought they were quite downbeat on it. I thought he always sort of looked quite Glen Eagles type.
I was hearing up to last Thursday that he was definitely going to run.
Really? So that's interesting. So I know nothing then.
Yeah, but like Best Solution was very impressive in that trial as well. But like, it's just not going to be good enough, is it? Well, sorry, but something has to be good enough. Do you know what I mean? So like, I think But most likely it's going to be Cliff. I think Cliff Samoa is a reasonable chance. But I think if, just for example, if Ryan Moore chose something else, which could happen, then suddenly the betting is all over the shop. Like, you know,
someone put up Venice Beach
the least bad horse is going to win this race.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good positive attitude to have about our Derby.
Actually, it's a race. I think I'm coming more and more to the conclusion that this race is in trouble. It's whatever is happening with the breed of racehorse at the moment. The quality of middle distance 3-year-old colts especially is really it's tanking in the last couple of years.
That's interesting.
It's what Tom Seagal's been saying.
Yeah.
We
won't get started. We won't get started on that whole debate then. We'll go back to looking back at York. I think it's a shame that Shutter Speed won't run in the Oaks. I think, if she's good enough. I think it's sad that they're going to go elsewhere, but they don't think she'll stay. Obviously, Tasley impressed through in the mud in the Duke of York. Brando bled. Apparently, he was disappointing. Blonde Me sprung a surprise in the Middleton, and then we had quite an interesting Yorkshire Cup, I thought. What was everyone else's highlights at York? We'll start with you, Nick.
Yeah, like you said, disappointing Shutter Speed won't go, although that's a nod to Enable, I think. John Gosden's other runner in that. Could be a cracker between her and Rhododendron. Be an interesting race. Tasley won nicely. I thought the one to take out that race, I was impressed with the way Magical Memory travelled and ran. I don't think a huge amount was expected of him. They were going to pull him out on the morning of the race, decided to let him take his chance, and he ran really nicely. He kind of went off the boil a bit last season, but he was a bit unlucky in the Golden Jubilee. He wasn't far away from winning it, but just things didn't quite go his way. I think he'll be very competitive in that again. So he would be the one to take out the meeting for me. Yorkshire Cup, it was a close finish, wasn't it? But I don't think it has much bearing on, I don't think he's a potential.
It's a hard race to assess, wasn't it, I think?
Yeah, I think so.
Strength of
form. He might be a bit
form-wise.
betwixt and between Dartmouth. I'm not sure whether he wants further or whether he wants shorter. Order of St George is a massive fancy for me. I think we got a Gold Cup price-wise, haven't we, today or tomorrow? But I'll be surprised if anything's good enough to beat him if he gets there in one piece. OK,
Justin, we'll move along to you. Anything catch your eye at York?
Why don't we start a Racing Post campaign now to put Shutter Speed in the Derby?
I said it last week. Khalid Abdullah, if you're listening, sort it out, OK? There we go. Done.
You're way ahead of me, Maddie. She was a highlight. I thought she handled the soft ground well too. Disappointing that she's not going to, but the French race is probably an easier race to win than the Oaks, which looks a half decent classic.
When
this
you
year.
Compare it to the Derby, anyway.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And Tasley was impressive as well. He's not a horse I knew a whole lot about now before I saw him, but the way he picked up on that ground and the ground he made up to challenge and then picked up again to go and win that sprint was pretty impressive. How does I presume he is a horse who lacked on better ground. As I say, I don't know a whole lot about him, but you couldn't be but impressed visually by the way he did, the way he won. And that's about as much of York as I saw, lads.
What about you, Paddy? Hopefully you saw a little bit more of York.
Yeah, I was taken by the sprint as well, the Duke of York.
You don't think it was a case of bad ground and it was one of those funny old races?
No, that's the point. No, as looking ahead, exactly the same as Nick. I mean, the Tin Man, there was money after the race for the Tin Man for the Diamond Jubilee, but actually the one Magical Memory ran brilliant because they were all over Twitter, him and Hone, about whether they're going to run and all that kind of stuff, and the fact that he did run so well, I think they'll be really, really pleased. And he's 8-1 for the Diamond Jubilee, which I think is a decent price because that race is usually an open enough race, but as a sprint I thought it was a really, really good trial for Ascot. So you're always, racing, you're always looking ahead, you're never happy with today, it's always about tomorrow.
Nope.
And that's the case for me, so I always looking for something else to take out of it, and that was the one from the week I'd be going, ooh, notebook's out,
Okay, I'm glad somehow didn't win the Lockinge because I would have been in a lot of trouble if she would have won that on Saturday. What did we all make of the race? I thought Godolphin, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but their tactics, I thought they were brilliant. That's how, these big races should be ran. How good do you think Ribchester is? Let's go to you first, Justin.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of codology there. I think those tactics were deliberate as well. There was no attempt to get Toscanini towards the front. He didn't miss the break by that much.
There was no effort there, was there?
No, and he's a sprinter. He's a 5 furlong horse, and it's codology. But I say about Ribchester, there was no real, there was no real, I think, indication from any of his previous form that he would have been suited by going off in front. And
if anything, you would have thought it might have been against him because there's a history of being quite free.
And coming from off the pack, coming with a late run. So I mean, you'd have to be impressed. You'd have to be impressed the way that he's now as versatile as he is to be able to do that in a Group 1 and win it. He's now a horse you can put anywhere in a race. He's clearly the best miler around at the moment. Galileo Gold, okay, there might be one or two excuses. He got a bit lit up, and he was pretty fresh and keen, but he was.
They don't think he would have liked the ground, do they? Well, that was their excuse they gave anyway.
That's not the case, is it? He's acted well on soft ground before. He acts on anything, really, doesn't he? He's shown that in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ribchester is very, very good. He's the best miler around at the moment. It's going to be you're going to have a fairly mouth-watering clash when him and Churchill get it together, and probably in the Sussex Stakes. At the moment, I'd put Ribchester probably maybe fractionally ahead of him, but it's a long season yet. But the thing that most impressed me with Ribchester is that he won the way the race was run.
Yeah, I think for me it's a case of Ribchester's very, very good, but I'm not sure there's an awful lot of depth to the division. Like we've said, a few of them had excuses, but when you look at Lightning Spear in second, and then we've got the likes of Breton Rock who finished third, I think it's quite hard to say he's an absolutely excellent horse. I think he's very, very good, but I don't think it's the best division. Nick, what did you make of Ribchester?
I was gutted. It's one of those races where afterwards I sat back and Ribchester obviously won easily and he was 7-4, and you think you should be absolutely smashing a horse like that, because I just thought beforehand, I thought he's better than Galileo Gold. Hugo Palmer's horses are out of form at the moment.
They really are, aren't they?
Yeah, and I thought somehow we ran won a really poor race at Newmarket the time before, so I wasn't really sure about her chances at all. I didn't think anything else counted. And of course, then you see them win like that, and you think, why didn't I smash it?
It all makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's annoying when things like that happen. But yeah, I think Ribchester's a very good horse. He showed that last season. He showed progression. I think if they do meet at Goodwood, him and Churchill, it will be another classic duel of the Downs, and you could come up with a decent argument for both of them, really. But yeah, he's just a real pro. He's very, very good. And I've heard all the excuses under the sun for Galileo Gold from Hugo Palmer.
You're just not buying it anymore?
No, not. He came up with a ground. He came up with loads of different theories that what happened to the supposed pacemaker that hurt their chance too. But basically, the horse wasn't good enough.
But if you're good enough, you win, don't you?
And his horses just aren't in form at the moment. And I think Ribchester's a better horse anyway.
I agree. And like we said, Ribchester, the race, there was no evidence beforehand that the race was run to suit him either. But he could overcome that. Paddy, what did you make of the Lockinge?
I concur, Your Honour. I think I think Ribchester is the one to beat until possibly later in the year. Like if Churchill doesn't step up in trip, then it could be the one. It could be the big duel to have. But Alice Springs or something like that, maybe later in the year, could be the one that
I
would
fancied
take
Alice
Ribchester
Springs
on,
for the Lockinge, so I was a bit disappointed she didn't go.
Depends where Minding goes as well.
I was going to touch on her. I think we're all presuming she's staying over a bit further. I think they've said the Prince of Wales is her first sort of major target. I'm not sure if anyone's heard any different.
I thought she was kind of heading for the Arc type of thing.
Right, we'll stick with you two in Ireland because we'll go to yesterday's action at Naas. Caravaggio was just absolutely awesome, and Alpha Centauri wasn't shabby either. What did we make of yesterday's action, lads? We'll start with you, Justin.
Caravaggio did what he was entitled to do and did it impressively. And he deserves to be a short price the favourite for the race in Ascot. On better ground, he's probably going to improve even more. Although the ground wasn't that bad yesterday, obviously. But no, the way he picked up, that was the most impressive thing about it. And he's probably only just about ready to start off as well. Yeah, I mean, they've probably learned the lessons from Air Force Blue last year and not bothered trying Caravaggio over a mile, and it's going to pay off this season. He is very much champion sprinter material. I
think he's a horse with the most raw talent and ability I've seen in an awful long time. I really, really rate him. Like you say, he did what he was entitled to do, but I think he's really something to get quite excited about. Paddy, what did you and the market make of Caravaggio, and indeed anything else that happened yesterday?
Yeah, Caravaggio was obviously the one, and was put in. I think shortened to 6-4 straight after the race, maybe 7-4 straight after the race, and is now 6-5, and is blue all across the board as well. So obviously, punters are equally impressed, and looks like one of the bankers for Ascot Commonwealth Cup. And then the other one is in the Albany that you mentioned,
Alpha Centauri.
Alpha Centauri. Wow, she was. Pretty impressive as well. So that's another one to really look forward to as well. Another Irish banker for Ascot. We'll turn it into Cheltenham yet. Another Irish banker. We'll have the Irish flags and everything waving when they come in. But 7-4 now for the Albany Stakes. So that could be a decent day for Jessica Harrington. Actually, another to finish off a nice year for her.
Yeah, Nick, we'll go to you next. Did you spot anything that wasn't totally obvious at Naas, or was it just Caravaggio and Alpha Centauri all the way for you?
Yeah, obviously, David, the main two. I think if you rewind to a couple of weeks ago when they had that race at Ascot where Blue Point beat Harry Angel, I think Godolphin and Clive Cox could, after that race...
Love Harry Angel,
Yeah, they could have thought at the time that they had maybe the winner of the Commonwealth Cup because we hadn't seen Caravaggio at that stage. But I think if they'd seen that race yesterday, they'd be a bit scared of the Aidan O'Brien horse now. I still think Harry Angel would be the one to take from the Ascot race, and he'd be the biggest danger.
But
no, I think I'm going to line up a big double at Ascot, Alderus and George and Caravaggio, because I can't see either horse being beaten. Might be short prices, but I don't care. That strikes me as a good double at this stage.
You wouldn't stretch the treble, Nick, no? Alpha Centauri?
Could do, yeah, but trebles, there's always one that lets you down in a treble, isn't there? I always think that's just
that's why there's bookies. That's why there's bookies.
I know.
Right, let's go now to our tracker horses. Any horses that caught our eye that we are going to keep an eye on for next time. Nick, what caught your eye?
Yeah, a horse called Tarmal won at Newmarket at the weekend. Thought he did well because his conditions were dreadful at Newmarket and he was left out on his own a bit. I think he's got a lot of talent, might go for the Jersey Stakes, think he'll be better in a big field. And there's one in that London Gold Cup at Newbury, Century Dream, Simon Crisford's just pulled a bit hard. Still came there cruising 2 out, but again, the ground was really bad, couldn't pick up, got tired, finished 4th. He'll win a big handicap somewhere this season.
Sorted. All sounds very straightforward. Paddy, anything for your tracker?
The only one I have in there is Mum's horse, Miss Power, finished second at Navan, and she was. I thought she might win, but I think the horse that beat her looked very good, so maybe we should put him in instead. But she's one I think that there's a little bit more in her. She's only learning the trade really, and she's going to get better and better as a sprinter. I think she's pretty good, finishes her race as well. So I think she'd be she's one to keep an eye on.
And Justin, for you?
Before that, Matty, just go back a second to Alpha Centauri. I think the one thing I'd maybe have a slight worry about is if the ground came up very quick at Ascot. She has a little bit of a knee action. I know she won a quick round first time out of Naas, but she changed her legs a couple of times inside the last furlong. I think
you don't think that was just greenness, no?
It could have been. It could have been greenness. It could have been the ground. I just think yesterday's ground, maybe just good ground with a slight little bit of an ease, is absolutely perfect for her. She got that at Ascot. She's unopposable, really.
Note of caution there.
Okay, but back to your tracker. I'm going to give you 2, actually, if you don't mind.
2 for the price of 1 is brilliant.
Two for the price of 1. One is a horse called Nig Bay, Nigg Bay, trained by John Ox. Ran in a maiden at Killarney last Tuesday. Was well touted beforehand, but the ground was pretty soft and was against him. He's a colt by Exceeding Excel. But was beaten half a dozen lengths in third, but he ran with a good bit of promise, and I think he's one to follow. And another one for the summer jumping fans is a 4-year-old of Gordon Elliott's, which ran at Downpatrick on Friday, called Mischief Maisie. First handicap, had 3 runs in juvenile maiden hurdles the end of last year, but got stopped in its run badly. Beaten half a dozen lengths, 6-15 in a first-time tongue tie. Is one for I'd say average handicap hurdles at around 2.5, 2.6, but will win a couple of races. Mischief Maisie.
Very thorough. Thank you very much indeed. I liked Natavia, who ran in the Fillies trial race at Newbury on Saturday. Nathaniel's getting going now as a sire a little bit, and I thought that was a very professional. She looked very balanced. So I think I don't think they know where she's going to go, but I think wherever she does go, she could be one to watch. Now, before we say goodbye, I asked Twitter, which is always a dangerous thing to do, if anyone has any questions for us to answer. So I'm just going to chuck them out there and see if anyone has any strong views. At the Betting Hub asked, how did Dan Skelton manage to win 4 races in 8 days with too many diamonds? The horse was 0 from 41. Nick, what did you make of that? It's quite extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah, it is how he did it. I don't know. You'd have to ask him, but I suppose it's just the time of year, isn't it? And there might be a few soft races around, and obviously once you win one, you go on the roll. So you just roll the dice, don't you, until it gets beaten. And yeah, great effort from Dan.
Yeah, I'll just fire off another one now quickly. Liam Hedgecock says, have we got a price, Paddy Power, on Caravaggio for the Commonwealth Cup and the July Cup double? Could be something he might be doing.
Yeah, I know for the July Cup he's in. I just saw a price for that this morning. Hang on one sec.
I'm putting you on the spot
You're
now.
putting me on the spot completely, yeah, but I can just, let's see, I'll give you something. So if he wins, hang on a sec now, price of July Cup. If he wins the thing at 6-5, he's going to be probably about 5-4, isn't he, for the other one? So that's
Could he be vulnerable in July Cup? That's 6 at Newmark. July course is more like 7.
Yeah, you never know.
Do you think 7 would be a problem? I think he perhaps wins over anything.
Well, until he goes and does it over 7.
Very true.
Which is not gonna, which I don't see happening in the near future. But anyway.
Okay, Jack Randall says, which is best, the Derby or the National? For me, it's the National. Nick, Derby or National?
National Day is brilliant. Although I'll give Poundland Hill a go this year and see how it is up there. And
I'm
maybe
going to Epsom for the first time this year. I'm excited. Paddy, Justin, Derby or the National?
Since they turned the National into a 4.5 mile flat race, I'm a little bit less of a fan of it than I was. And
ouch.
Maybe they put jumps into the Derby to rejuvenate it. I think I'd be more of a National fan. I think I'm kind of a bit with Justin there. The whole mystique or the fairy tale of the Derby doesn't get me as well. I prefer some of the other big flat races in the summer. I love working towards the Arc, and I love Royal Ascot, and I love York in August as well. So I think I'd be more National than Derby.
Okay, one last question, and that was from Nick Palfrey. He says, horses for Ascot. Not sure if you guys, this might be a bit too off the cuff for you, but one group performer and one handicapper. Nick, have you got anything at all for Ascot that you've got nailed on that you think?
Yeah, I've already said it. The Group 1, Order of St George in the Gold Cup, and the handicapper, that horse of Chrisford, so I mentioned earlier.
Century Dream, yeah. Okay, Paddy, anything for you at Ascot?
I'd be Magical Memory in the Diamond Jubilee on the Saturday.
Anything in the handicaps or?
Don't have a rashers yet, to be honest.
Justin?
Ribchester and the Queen Anne. Let's get it out of the way early.
Keep it simple.
The handicaps, I wouldn't have a clue.
Okie dokie. Well, that looks as if it should be about it for this Monday's Postcast. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Justin. And thank you, Paddy, for joining us. If you enjoy these shows, don't forget to subscribe and rate us on iTunes. And hopefully, I'll be asking a few more viewers' questions in future. So please send them in. Thank you.
Check out Paddy Power's new and exclusive Cash Card Plus. Available to use online, at ATMs, or even down the local. Paddy Power, you beauty.